Welcome back to our Scala to Spark class, and we will talk about some technical issues with Spark Context Manager, also with logging. Again, log4j, our old friend, and in the process we will be downgrading our Spark from 3.3 to 3.2.2. Actually, it's a later version, but on a previous, later, more recent minor version on a more older, major version. So let's take a look. So where are we? Again, this is our project, and we have a pipeline, right? We had a pipeline for data machine learning workflow, and we had an issue, right? If you go here. Well, not here, this actually is a good one. No, it's here, right? We saw a problem is that when we run our code, right, from the book, chapter 24, well, there is a infamous null pointer exception in a Spark context cleaner, right? Error cleaning shuffle, right? Basically, it is a way, it's not freeing up resources in time, right? It's an abstraction for us. We shouldn't really worry about this usually, right? But of course it's annoying. You have this type of error, right? It's not something, you can't really ignore it in a full, even though the program process ends with exit code 0, so we don't have a problem. And actually our program works, right? We get an evaluation back and we can save the model. Everything works in our code, right? It works fine, right? Actually prints the evaluation, so it looks okay, but again, this is not, maybe we can avoid this if possible. These errors, we could of course go through our Spark internals. Where is our Spark internals here? Let me see if we can find it here. Log4j, no, that's next thing. Okay, so context cleaner, right? So that's where the issue is, right? You can read about Spark internals and see that it's actually basically trying to, it's a service which tries to reduce the memory requirements for these data heavy Spark applications. Unfortunately, if you look at Stack Overflow, you see all their questions, right? So apparently the 3.3 version is not enough people are using it, and it's actually, again, unless we need something from this 3.3 version, it might make sense to migrate down to older version. So let's take a look. What's 3.2, right? It supports some new things, right? That's what we're going to be migrating back, right? On 3.3, what we've been using is release, right? It has an improvement for join queries with Bloom filters. That certainly looks nice, right? Some migration with some NCI compliance, right? Looks better error handling, right? So it looks good. Again, possibly when we go 3.31 or 3.32, right, this will be fine. But notice again that 3.22 is actually more recent, July 17th. And again, in real life, oftentimes your projects will use even older versions. So this might be useful to learn how to downgrade the version to a previous version. So in retrospect, it's nothing too complex to do, right? So we would like to get rid of this. So what we'll do is we will change the version. Now we have 3.3, right? We'll go to our Maven repository, we'll change it to 3.32, right? So, okay, so how do we do that? Well, easy, we could just change here. But of course, I want to keep this aside. Best would be, of course, best practice would be to branch, separate, version of this project. But I will basically, for easier workflow, I'll just clone it in a different directory, right? Current version, and I will change it manually, and then I will update, push this version to the Git repository. So, what I already have done it, right? So it's actually notice it's one level deeper. So basically, I just clone to a new directory, basically, right? Same project. So what have I changed? So what have I changed is that I have changed, of course, build SBT, and I change it to 3.32. 322. That's easy, right? Very easy. And of course, then SBT, Scala or simple builds the tool, rebuilt, downloaded the new versions of jar, or you could say older versions. So we can see what's actually here. If you go to external libraries, right, you open up here, you can see here, go to Apache, where's our friend Apache? Org, of course it's org, right? Org, Apache, you have lots of projects here from Apache. And we have Spark, and of course core 322, right? 322. If you go to here, or previous version, right? If you go here, org, you will find it. It's Apache core. Where is our core? Apache or Parquet Spark, it is 3.30. Okay, so yeah, so that works, right? Again, change those jar Java archive files to the appropriate version, right? That's all it is. However, this is not the end of it. If you go down to this previous version, if you rebuild it, something will be missing. The logging, I don't know, you will be missing the log files, these two Apache logging APIs, right? These two will be missing, and here they are here already, right? APIs 2.72, right? They are here. Okay, so it looks like the earlier version of Apache Spark is not automatically including the logging. You have to add it yourself. Well, that's not the end of that's easy, right? You basically go to our Maven or check our logging dependency, check where it is, right? This is where it is here, right? Log4j core. This is, of course, probably the most important infrastructure in the Java universe, the logging, right? Everybody's using it, right? So very, very important. So again, if you're going to be using 2.72, you could also use 2.18, of course, right? Again, why it's important, of course, first of all, because logging means you create a record. It's also good for debugging, but also for keeping a record for later, right? For, dealing with customers, remember how you can change the idea. You can change the logging levels, right? For different purposes, right? Instead of just using print line, or something, or writing to a file directly, right? This provides a unified infrastructure, basically, right? The problem, of course, is that it turned out to be a surprising vulnerability about 8 months ago. There's even a Wikipedia entry about this, right? So if you go here, right, where is the log4shell, right? This came out in about late last year, in November last year, and this was probably the highest vulnerability ever, right? So all their projects which are using older version of log4j actually have this big vulnerability, meaning you can actually get inside basically you get a shell access, meaning you have a full access to the computer, basically literally hundreds of millions of devices. Again, it is really unexpected, right? Probably ever, right? So, but for you, right? So this is something to keep in mind, right? Again, it's nothing to. It's like I said, it's not our fault, right? But well, of course, still it's something you have to keep in mind, right? So we want to use, of course, the latest the version which does not have this important vulnerability, right? So right, so what we do, of course, we use 2.17, right, which fixed. Actually, I think December version already fixed it, but again, let's use this one here, right? Even Maven repository warns us about this here, right? How vulnerable these. I think 2.15 was the one which was the dangerous one, right? This is the one which I think it had. It's still a vulnerability, but 2.17 does not have it, right? So that's why we are including it here, right, by hand. Where's our project? Here we are, right? So I added basically core and API. So the thing is, core is for logging ourselves, and API I think is for the actually, if you look up here again, they go together. It's a plugin basically, right, for perhaps for other programs to use it, right? Maybe not directly, right? Again, but you need both, right? So in this case, you need both. Okay, so we have added this log4j, have safe version, okay, and we have SBT has rebuilt this for us. We have it, right? We can check our project, right? We can see it here. Okay, where is it? It is somewhere here, right? Yeah, okay, all right, it's good, all good. Right, so that's great, but now we will see a problem that our logging somehow it does not work properly. For example, here, right, if you want to use it, right, remember you had to set up XML file, and for some reason it does not pick up the latest version. So what turns out that there are log4j, actually there are two versions underneath, two ways of using log4j. There's a version 1 way of using it, and also log4j2 method of using it. So, and it looks like Spark is using the earlier one, and we in our day 18 we were using also the earlier one, but so it's not picking up the properties. So I had to create a new log4j properties file for the for the older way of working with it, with log4j. Again, if you check this file, right, I create this by hand from the examples, it's actually very similar to log4j XML format. However, I mean, idea-wise, right? Except it's simpler. I mean, you don't have the tagging, right? If you have this, you have to type your tags, right? But same idea. You configure the main level, right? Full level, right? And then of your logger, and then you configure also, right? You say full level, right? Root level, right? Debug, for example, right? And then you can configure individual levels of these appenders, meaning these are the actual ones which do the actual appending to your, to your output. So you choose two ways, maybe appender to console, right? You name it. You need a name. Let's see. So you say you call it console, right? You can do it my console or some other name. Again, I think it's case sensitive. Pretty sure it's case sensitive. And basically, then you have to add a couple options. It's a console. That's a name that we use here. Okay. You say, okay, that's how it's gonna, the way of it's gonna work, right? Log system to system, right? And default target system out. And well, actually, you don't. So this might not be even needed, right? You can make a comment on this. And you also need to have a pattern layout. Again, it's kind of cool how IntelliJ picks up on this, right? It tells you what it is, right? So flexible layout, right? Again, there's actually extended one, actually an enhanced pattern again. And you, of course, say what kind of, how you want it to look, right? Again, you can, of course, play around with this formatting tool, of course, right? Okay, and then, very important, of course, is the threshold. What kind of messages you want to display. Again, the idea being that if you need to, this is the only thing a user or somebody, a developer would need to change afterwards, right? You only need to change this one little setting, right? You change the level and you will have a different level of messages on a screen, right? So, for example, right now I will make it a debug, right? Debug, right? And of course, it will do debug. And now this is also similarly, there's a file. I named it file, basically, right? For file, again, writing to files, and I said, okay, it's going to be file appender, right? For writing to files, right? For log4j, and I want to use my log directory and logs, my log, where I'm going to store the log file. Okay. Also notice I have made the git ignore already has logs. I'm not saving logs to git, right? So that's just a little set aside. Okay, so also pattern layout. Again, you could play with these settings if you really want to, right? There is a big log official documentation oracle, right? You could read about this here, docs oracle, right? Or you can read from official. Where is my log4? There's lots of, okay, here, yeah, this is probably where you want to read it, right? So this again, the problem with log4j is that it's extremely configurable, right? And so you can write XML, right? So look at this. So basically there are 10 different ways log4j configures itself, right? So it's pretty crazy, right? So it looks for this first, then it looks for this, then test, XML, so log4j, and then finally log4j XML, right? So this is one of the last ones it looks for, right? So very pretty crazy how many different. So if nothing, no configuration is found, so the option 10, the last, so to say, last fallback is it will just do some logging to the output and using default configuration, which is somewhere saved, automatic, some default configuration. Okay, and that's what's causing all these. If you have nothing done, no configuration done, it will just log everything in the console, and it will really log everything, right? So it's because it's debug level, right? So you want to do this. So what I've done is basically said, okay, but default debug, but I'm going to do, okay, debug here, but warning here. So let's try this. Okay, I'll try it here on log4j, and I'm using this new method. Let's take a look. Day 18, remember day 18, right? Let's run it. Right, so warning error, right? And I get a warning error messages only there. And if I go check, let's check, or my log, was it my log, right? Yeah, I think it's my log, right? Or is it here? Yeah. No, actually this is not here, it's an app log. Yeah, Okay, so it wrote to here, right? It wrote to here. Why did it write to up, not mylog? Because it's using this log4j2. You see, so that's what's even more confusing is that it's using, you can choose the old way, right, of working with logger, right, on the new way. This is the new way. So if I go to the old way, right, here, this is the old way, right, I'll run it again. Yeah, so notice, this time it showed 4 messages, right? Why? Because it used this log4j properties where I set debug, right? I said debug level. So it's using the old way, and also if you check, it added to naturally to my log. It's added here, right? 311, right? So it added here, right? So again, notice also only added warning and error. Because why only added 2? Because I said here threshold is just warning. Okay, so depending what you use, right? Depending what kind of API access you use in your program, it is highly recommended you use the newer way actually, right? However, many other libraries use the old method, right? And again, it's not that they are, I mean, again, the new access, this is what the recommended way. You look at the migration list here, right? Migrating, right? So this is something you want to see. If you write your own programs, you should use really the 2.2 version yourself, right? Again, but you see, notice it's log4j2. We are using log4j2. It provides support for log4j1 logging methods, right? By providing alternate implementations of the classes containing these methods, right? So that's what's interesting. Right? So it again, it's because it wants to, it has to support all the old methods as well, right? So, but what's interesting is here. So depending what kind of logger we choose, it will choose either the old one. It will use log4j, right? The new one will use log4j2. So I think what's happening is underneath that 3.3 Spark is using log4j2 as well, right? Like I'm using here. However, the 3.22 is using the old log4j. So let's take a look at our pipeline, right? So this is Spark program, right? We have our Spark context, right? Again. So it's going to use, of course, like any normal program, it wants to use this logging infrastructure, right? Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so let's run it. Right, so look at all this spam. So why is this all this spam? Again, it's all debug and info. So it can be quite useful if you need to track down some problem, right? Where that problem occurs. Last working thing was before. It's extremely exhaustive. Again, this level you don't usually want it, right? Again, because look at how much. Again, because printing to a console is expensive operation, and so again, it will take a long it will take a while, right? Just printing. Look at this, about 1,000 prints in a second, and again. But looks like our program is working fine, right? Of course, it's hard to say. Maybe I'm missing. We have to scroll down, right? Okay, shutdown is 0. Very good. Looks like it worked. What did we have here? I think, right? Pipeline. Did we print our evaluator? We saved our model. We print the test evaluation. It's somewhere there, right? You have to scroll down. Okay, so let's check our mylog, right? It's here. Yeah, indeed it is, right? So here we are fine. We had a couple warnings, right? We had like 2 warnings basically, right? We just only had 2 warnings and that's it, right? Truncated string, something on plan was too large, right? On again the metrics, which is because that's a Windows issue. Remember this, right? This is for Windows, doesn't work with these metrics. Okay, so we are fine, but we have all this debug here. So how do we change it? Again, so we go to the old log4j, not 2, right? We change it here. So we change the threshold, right? Threshold we do, so file is warning, which is good, right? But however, console threshold is debug. Of course, I could also change it here. I mean, I could change here. I could change to everything, right? But then this will still, I think, overwrite. So if I change warning here, right? If I didn't have this, right? So this is a way of globally changing, but this should have precedence. So I'll change this to warning, right? Again, so warning, which is probably what we want in regular, maybe even error, but warning is okay. Warnings might be sometimes something, sort of say canary in a coal mine, maybe useful. And again, logs my log. Again, of course, this name is completely arbitrary. It's up to you what you want it, right? And again, of course, there's no requirement. If I get rid of this here, right, all this, it will just basically skip the writing to the file. You don't have to write the file, but of course, it's a good practice in general, because then you can say, okay, you can say your client or your user, right, or yourself, you say, okay, let's put this logging to debug, right, threshold to debug here, right, on. You will save everything, and you can then use a log, some extra log parsing tool, or write one yourself and check for errors, right? Okay. Of course, the format is up to you, what you want, right? Again, this is what kind of logging format. It's up to you how you want to log your files. So remember, all days we use this format, right? New one we use this format. Again, it's up to you basically, right? So again, it tells you where it comes from. This error comes from where, right? It came from this module, and here from utility package game, you execute procs method. It tells you where it came from. Okay, so now let's test it, right? So I say warning, will it work? And let's run it. Let's run our program or pipeline. Sparky. 2.38, 2.13, one partition, so 3.22, right? Not 3.3, but 3.22 now, right? Again, we have root, right? We have the warning and summary, and now it's doing the fitting, or machine learning model is working, right? Trying to find the classification. Again, the metrics, and let's wait for it. It's still running. On evaluation, again 87%, right? Pretty good. Again, well, not 90%, but 87% again of this test data. And our process has finished. Okay, our full pipeline has run its course. Okay, so what have we done? We downgraded our Spark version to 3.2 again. And as a byproduct of this, we also had to add our log4j core and API manually to 2.17.2 also, safe version. And this also required, somewhat unexpectedly, to create a log4j file, not log4j2 file. And you could have used XML as well, by the way, but it's using slightly different syntax. So properties was easier, I think, and I think you get the idea. It's relatively simple, right? You just determine what kind of root, level of root logger, right? And then what kind of loggers you want to use. Again, pick up a nice name, and then use, okay, define. So now we define. So now we define properties for our console logger, right? Basically, right? An appender, of course, technical appender, right? Of course, appender here, appender, right? Of course, again, appender is just a, you could say a sub-module of big logger, basically, right? That's what they call it, right? And then you also determine for file. And of course, you could have more different appenders, of course. Of course, you could have more appenders, right? Just that, maybe network somewhere, just that you would need to add them to root logger. Add them to first, right? Okay, so yeah, that was the log4j properties, and now let's see. Also, I showed you how you can make the new way of working with log4j, right? The new standard, right? And the old standard as well. Okay, now let's see if we can do everything commit. So we have build, and also part of this project. I can show you. Where is it here? Logs. Yeah, a slight utility. How can you find where is our class path, right? Again, where are our modules? A slight little loop, right? For each, right? See all the class path of all the modules of everything available, right? So you can run this program. It's a little, right? So you can see everything we have access to, right? Of course, your username will be different, of course, right? It all basically tells you where all it looks, for example, this is Java 8 version, right? It looks for all the jars there first, right? All this is available basically for import and for for usage, right? And also there's also a couple places where it's extra jars from from IntelliJ and some extra things there as well. Okay, that was just a little extra bonus. So now let's commit all of this. So commit will be day 33, downgrading Spark 3.3 to 3.22 and configuring log4j properties. Okay, and I'll do everything. Build. Okay, everything's here. Okay, everything. Let's see how it works. All right, and let me see if I didn't maybe fix something here. No, everything looks good. Okay, commit and push. And this it took some time here, right? Okay, 25 minutes. Again, commit anyways, push, 2 warnings. We can check, of course, the warnings, logging, what doesn't like to do. Remove brace. Oh yeah, we had some extra. Yeah, this is, we're not using it, so I'll just commit it. Okay. And what's here? Trailing spaces. What's happening here? Oh, there's extra. Okay, yeah. It's just a warning. Okay. Right. We fixed that. It's just a cosmetic thing, but again, trailing spaces sometimes might cause some problems, so better to get rid of them. All right, commit and push. All right, so we have pushed this. Now, last but not least, I would like to go and let's make it test it, see how it works. Let's first, of course, let's go to our Scala Spark, see our code. Last 16 seconds ago, great. So okay, we have our build, change, everything. So let's see if this actually works. So of course I have my git address URL and I will use it. I'll close this one. I don't need this one. This is the old one. I know it works here, right? Version. So now I will do new window, new window or new. Okay, so open. Let's see, new project from version control, right? Yep. Okay, git we can choose, where else, right? And now, of course, I'll say test, test or something. Again, test. I'll call it maybe Spark. I don't know, 322, maybe. I don't know. And Scala Spark Summer 22. Okay. Well, again, the name is not really that. This is just a subfolder, of course, right? Because of course the project is going to be here. So you can clone anywhere else you want, right? As long as it's not an existing Git project, right? So I'll clone it. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, I'll do new window, or I could okay, new window. Okay. Now, of course, SBT, simple build tool or Scala build tool, will be working with this. And I think there will be a problem. Yes, there will be a problem. By default, right, it will use Java 17, right, not 8, right? Again, this will cause some extra problems. So everything worked. Again, the build will work, but we want to go to project settings, right, project structure. Yes, okay, so Amazon Corretto 17, right, again, Spark does not support. Again, Spark is famous for using older, stabler versions. Again, 17 of course is stable, but so we want to go back to down to 1.8 or 8, version 8, right, again. So, apply, right, or okay, right, and now we should be able to do it. Let's test it. Let's go to our main, right, everything else is down. So our libraries have upload, okay, great. Let's check our Scala, let's check our logger. Right, this is a new way of logging. Let's check that one. Will it compile? Yeah, there's something missing. Some seeds, some day 22 has some, right, so logging, yeah, this warning error. Again, notice since I'm using the new version, it's using this one here, right, the properties here, right, warning, right, for loggers, I think for file logger, right, yes, root level warning, right, and we can say level warning again. So that's I'm using warning, so that's why I don't see that the bug an info message. Okay, great. Now let's go to our main project, right? Or pipeline example, right? Let's see how it works. Okay. Yes, we have everything. And let's run it. And now hopefully everything will compile, right? It will be, of course, Murphy's law that if something, again, this Spark context would even not work on 3.2 here, but yeah, it worked fine, and it should quick. It's now saving the model, so 92% this time again. Again, it's not deterministic, right? But notice also here, where did we save our model? We saved in our pipeline, we saved temporary source resources. Let's check. Temp, right, and it's sourced model location here, right? So since it has like 90 files here, this model is not particularly excellent. What I did is I also in our git ignore, I said source resource temporary is actually out of the newer version, so it won't add any new files added to this directory. I should have done this earlier because all this extra stuff is just clutter, right? Okay, so that's our git ignore. All right, so great. So the good news is our downgrade was successful. Again, it involved some version compatibilities, changing some versions of log4j, some configuration settings, but again, looks like it's pretty painless. Again, if you are going up or down, let's say multiple versions with some library, of course expect more pain, because maybe some more APIs change, some more methods change, functions change, depreciated or added, so, but this was relatively painless. Hopefully it will be the same for you. So basically what you should do is, I think it's easier, right? Just open it, start a new project in a new directory, right? And you can keep the old one around if you want, but you could theoretically update as well, right? It would work, right? You could do, of course, pull. That's also possible. You can try that if you want. That's another way of doing it. But again, so easiest I think is just clone and rebuild everything from new. All right, so I'll see you at 9, but we will have also another section incoming on another exercise. Thank you.